YouTubers, big shout out to all my Kiwis out there watching my channel down in New Zealand and sharing my stuff down in New Zealand. I just want to send a shout out there to all my emailers. I don't want to say your name, but for sending me emails and telling me their stories on what's happening, and people waking up to realize a starter home is $1 million? Why? Anyways, starter home is 160 grand, not $2 million, $1 million. Anyways, let me get to my point. You guys know I'm unscripted. You guys know that I have no teleprompter. I have nothing around me. I'm just talking off my mind, off the top of my head. So if I say something, you don't have to go in the comments and tell me I'm stupid or I don't know what I'm talking about, or tell me, oh, why don't you critique and then write down what you're going to say, study your lines. Like, no, that's garbage. That's scripted junk. Anyways, this is what's coming off the fly. New Zealand is in utter failure when it comes to their housing situation. Their acting government has been in power for 9 years. I think it's 9 years. Someone could comment below and let me know. Their acting government. And the problem is, this government's been patching up or deflecting. Anything that comes about housing has been deflected. And I know they're having elections right now in New Zealand, and the housing should be the number one topic on any New Zealand platform. If you're running for anything in New Zealand, you're not, even if you're running for social development, or you're running for Chamber of Commerce, or you're running for some bizarre, I'm talking about housing. But you don't have nothing to do with housing, sir. I'm talking about housing. But, sir, you're head of school board. Yeah, I'm talking about housing. That's what you talk about, is housing. And then if you could tell people what they want to hear about housing, you will get elected. You'll get elected president of NASA if you talked about housing. And it has nothing to do, because the number one thing everyone's talking about when it comes to barbecues, on a train, standing at the bus stop, walking somewhere, is the price of housing. Now, New Zealand is an utter failure darkness. A lot of people outside of the New Zealand world, of the islands of New Zealand, don't know how bad it is there. The New Zealand proper is in so much trouble. You have no idea. Their immigration is rampant in New Zealand. The New Zealand proper can't have kids because they can't afford it. And the mass immigrants are coming in, and lots of investors coming in and popping up, buying up whatever's for sale. The government in New Zealand is not putting in any measures. What's that? Bill English, or I forgot his name. He's not putting any measures to protect the New Zealand proper. This is a huge problem because, one, in 15 years, people will write books, history books, talking about what a New Zealander was, or who a New Zealander. What does it mean to be a New Zealander? Because people won't know. 15 years from now, the next generation that comes after will have no idea what a New Zealander is, because they're being wiped out economically because they can't afford to have kids. And then you have this huge problem that nobody knows about that's happening in New Zealand is, one, their winters have been getting a lot colder. Comment below if you agree with me. Your winters down there have been getting a lot colder than usual, like a lot colder. And second, another problem that they're facing there, that a lot of places in the world that don't face, for some reason it's only concentrated in New Zealand, are meth houses. Houses where people smoke meth and use hard drugs, and it's destroying the property. And the people have to do meth tests on their houses in New Zealand. Okay? So people have to go in there and do a meth test before they buy a house, because that's how contaminated and that's how bad it is. You know, people here in Canada, we have grow-ups, like where someone does grow some pot in their house. Then they have to basically do a test to make sure that the house wasn't used as a grow-up and whatever, right? But a meth test, like, it's out of control. So, but New Zealand's been in the dark for a long time. I really feel for the New Zealand proper, because it's almost like a lot of countries are losing their sovereignty, or losing who they are, or losing what it means to be. Like, my great-grandparents, if they saw how much Canada has changed and what they work for and what they've built, would be in shock if they see how much is transformed, where there's no more middle class, it's working poor. And then what was the point of winning these wars if we were going to be driven to that point where we just can't afford to live anymore? You know, it's getting to a point, and that's what's happening. You know what I'm saying, guys? New Zealand, I really feel for the people down in New Zealand. A lot of families, a lot of people holding back on having kids because they can't afford it. A lot of people holding back on buying property because they can't afford it. A lot of people holding back on pretty much life. And it's happening in major cities. I thought this happened across Canada until I moved to the small town I'm in. Since I moved to the small town I'm in, I'm starting to realize, like, hey, wait a second. There's so many young families. I took my kid to his first day of play school. He's 3 years old. I took him to play school. I couldn't believe how many young families are in town. So many kids. They had to refuse some children because there was only capacity for 30. So they had to refuse some children. So that's fantastic. And in other cities, major cities, they're closing down schools because there's not enough kids going to them. So you see what I'm saying? I think outside the city life, I believed it was only the major cities. I thought it was the whole country. But now it's just I'm realizing the major cities is where you get gouged the most. And I see it just the New Zealander, I just feel so bad for them. I mean, I just wish the government could like look and say, hey, you know what? What about our forefathers? What about, you know, New Zealand is like, to me, it was found on Christian values like Canada and the United States, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Guatemala. But, you know, Australia, I think, was found on Christian values too. Laws were based on Christian values. And I don't know where things are headed anymore. I don't know. Guys, if you're watching this from New Zealand, comment below. I want to know what you guys think. I don't know. I just kind of feel like I think New Zealand should be front and center when it comes to housing crisis, so people know how much the people are struggling down there, especially with their colder winters now that they've been having. I don't know. That's just me talking off the top of my head. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Thanks for watching.